Shoot, I should have closed this off.
So Ruth, are we back in public session now?
Just a moment, I just need to restart the recording.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, you are now.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We are reconvening in public session before we recess until 7 o'clock. So thank you all, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. Meeting's adjourned. Recess.
I'm not a burden, but I love all
Did
animals,
somebody
so
get
it's like-
chosen as
Do anything.
to be a junior
I
mayor?
have it.
Or was that what that was
I think
about?
we
What?
had 3 entries. I think Ollerson and Chaz is gonna talk about it.
Okay,
I don't know.
that's fine.
It's like, isn't it behind?
Ruth, I'm gonna keep mine.
Oh, cool.
I think I have Chaz's copy, but I'm gonna keep mine.
Oh, yes. See, I wrote on
What's that
it.
called?
I am the worst.
I'll ask her. Seems like something she might be doing. Oh, no, I don't have it. I can give it to you when I have it. Yes.
Or he can burn it and send you a picture. Maybe not.
Hello, everyone. Ruth, let me know when you're ready to go live.
You are good to go.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for being here for our city council meeting on April 10th, 2023. We're going to go ahead and enter into our regular meeting. And let's go ahead and first get started with the roll call.
Why does it do that? I've got everything
It's
turned
not a
off
city
and it
council
still
meeting,
makes
it's a
a noise.
midterm.
Throw that away.
Oh, boy.
Let Sarah Nelson.
That's recorded. I
No, it's fine.
Record.
It's me.
All right. Are you ready for a roll call, Mayor?
Yeah, let's get started with the roll call.
Okay. Ruth Cozy. Here. Jessica Andrade. Present. Diane Crocker.
Here.
Matt Lehman.
Here.
Christopher McLaurin.
Here.
Teresa Nielsen. Josh Bell.
And here. So tonight, in tonight's meeting, we're going to first go through some proclamations for Arbor Day and a Heritage Tree Program designation before we go into public comments. Then we're going to have an invited presentation by the Hope Board. And we'll go through our consent agenda. Then we'll go through our unfinished business, including the discussion of our capital improvement plan and adopting that. We'll then go in to discuss some new business, including the use of our ARPA funds and some training recommendations by the Inclusivity Committee, and then staff and council reports. So first of all, happy Arbor Day, everyone. Just want to mention that on April 28th, we're going to be hosting an Arbor Day celebration, and we'll be reading the proclamation at that time, not in this moment. But I do really encourage everyone to celebrate and recognize Arbor Day and to go out and plant a tree when possible. So yeah, we'll be Chris, when and where is that celebration? At April 28th at 10 a.m., right?
It's actually 11 o'clock at Skirvin Park, which is just the Frolic and Rodeo grounds off of 13th Street, near the horseshoe statue there, right off the main entrance.
Thank you so much. And then Chris, do we have Kevin present to talk about the Heritage Tree Program, or who is going to do that?
I can do that. I don't know if I see Kevin on here. I think I'm just doing it. Let me double check though. Nope, Kevin is here. We'll let Kevin speak to it. Here he is.
Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I'll try to skip through on the Heritage Tree Program. I was actually taking notes and I can't really do two things at one time, or at least that. But we had 6 nominations. 5 of them have passed, which you have pictures and information on all 5 that did pass. The 6th was the Sequoia Grove at Marys River Park, and the committee felt that just wasn't really a heritage grouping, at least at this time, and it does have a lot of signage and everything with it already, so that one was kind of put on the back burner too, and these other 5 have cleared the committee, the Heritage Tree Committee, for approval to be officially deemed heritage trees.
Thank you very much for that, Kevin. Well, does any of the council have any questions for Kevin about these designations or proposed designations, or have a recommended motion? Councilor McMorrin.
I guess just to refresh everyone's minds, can you just briefly describe what the Heritage Tree Program is and why we do it?
The Heritage Tree Program is a new program that we have this year. We had a citizen recommend forming a Heritage Tree Committee, which is to find different types of trees that have either historical meaning or different shapes to them, older trees, just trees that are special to other people or to them. And then they nominate them, and the Heritage Tree Board meets once a year to review the nominations and decide on which ones to move forward.
Christopher?
I move that we adopt resolution 23-07.
Second.
So we have a motion made by Councilor McMorrin, seconded by Councilor Lehman. Any further discussion? Councilor Causey.
I would just like to note that on the resolution itself, the fourth tree on Applegate is not actually a white oak, it's a deodar cedar.
Do we need to move to amend the resolution?
Yeah,
And if that is true, what do we need to do differently?
Does say.
yeah, we should amend the resolution if it's stated wrong.
Councilor Causey, you're saying which tree was wrong?
Number 4 at 1506 Applegate Street,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
listed as a white oak. It's a deodar. So I move that we pass the resolution as amended. Or amend the motion to correct.
And in the application, it was correct. Yeah, yes, it was. Deodar cedar.
So we get a second on Council Causey's motion.
Yep.
Is your
So
motion?
we have a motion to amend by Councilor Causey, seconded by Councilor Nielsen. All in favor of making the amendment, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And with that, let's go ahead and vote on the amended motion. All in favor of designating these 5 trees as heritage trees, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. That was passed unanimously. So next on the agenda, we'll have public comment. Is there anyone signed up for public comment?
We've got
Fred Shaw.
one individual, Fred Schwab, signed up to speak. He provided comments earlier. Those were emailed out, and we also provided a hard copy in front of the council as well. But we'll invite Fred up if you want to grab a seat at the table, Mr. Schwab or Schaub, sorry. And
Thank you, Fred. Yeah, thank you, Fred, Mr. Schaub, for being with us. We really appreciate you coming and joining us as City Council tonight. I do have to read this the participation instructions that I read before every public comment. So one moment. This time is intended for individuals to speak and for council to listen. Members of the council will not discuss topics or make decisions during this time, but may take comments or requests under advisement, assign topics to a future council or a standing committee agenda, or request staff to take an action. Comments about a topic scheduled for public hearing should be given during the public hearing and not during the visitors and comments. Testimony time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. A 30-second warning will be provided, and speakers should provide their name and their city of residence. Providing the council with a written copy of your comments prior to and during the meeting is always appreciated. So thank you for doing that, Mr. Schaub. Those who attend the meeting, public meetings are required to adhere to council rules and proceedings and observe the same standards of decorum as members of the council. Further, at the discretion of the presiding officer, members of the public who fail to observe these rules of procedure will be asked to discontinue speaking and will not be allowed to speak again. Mr. Schaub, thank you so much for being here. We welcome your comments and yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll just kind of go through the little public statement or comment I made there. And my name is, I'm Fred Shaw. I'm with the Frometh Rotary Club here. And actually I'm a resident of Corvallis, but I recently gave a presentation to our Frometh Rotary Club on the completion of the Positive Peace Academy. And being a Corvallis resident, I discussed how Corvallis is working on like the homeless shelter and the mental health crisis center there as examples of how we can build positive peace instead of just negative peace. So the question was raised at the club meeting that I gave that presentation to. I said, well, what areas of the 8 pillars of positive peace would be most beneficial to the Frometh community? That's why I'm here today. I'm asking a question. So looking over your February Frometh City Strategic Plan 2023-2027, that really fits in a lot with the 8 positive pillars of positive peace. And it's in line with our Rotary goals as long as your goals there for your strategic plan. So what we would like to do from the Rotary Club would like to offer our volunteer time or even fundraising funds for good DEI, or, you know, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion of all, no matter who they are, what their race, color, creed are. So, so we want those to improve those relationships in the neighborhood, which kind of has a lot to do with what your strategic plan has. So, also our local club there can maybe help, not just as volunteers, but maybe even some financial support in small ways. We do have the abilities with our Rotary district in the Northwest here to get equal grant raising funds that could be applied to that. And if we can get it even up to where it's acceptable by the Rotary International level, we can double that. So we have some financial abilities to help support some of these
30 seconds, Mr. Shaw. 30 seconds. We have 30 seconds left.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'm a little hard of hearing, so excuse me. Speak up. So, I looked at the your Frometh strategic plan for 2023-27, and a lot of the 4 of the 8 pillars really fit into that. I can see from reading your goals there that it's a well-functioning government, sound business environment, low levels of corruption, if any, free flow of information. So specifically what we'd be interested in the 8 pillars of positive peace would be in equity distribution of resources. Rotary's heavily involved with disease prevention, treatment, water sanitation and hygiene. So if there's any areas that we can partner or assist in that plan, we'd love to do. And then equal relations, good relations of neighbors, and also the acceptance of the rights of others. And specifically, that has been a real key Rotary goal, is that we want to be diversity, equity, and inclusion. So whatever we can do to help spread that in the community from our efforts, we want to support that. And then high levels of capital, human capital. That's there's a lot of people, faced with social and economic hardships, such as what was mentioned in your strategic plan there, like the affordable housing, so forth. So basically, our Rotary Club has been mostly involved with the Florida School District, providing programs of literacy and peaceful school type of programs that we work really diligent with. So, and then, we're also, I'm excited anyway, being an environmentalist, with a tree planting project, but that's a little side factor.
Mr. Sean, yeah, I've given you a couple of extra minutes because I hate to cut you off, but your time is up.
Okay, so, all right, so basically, kind of to wrap up my comments our basic question in the 8 pillars of positive peace in the Plymouth strategic plan. Where can we, the Plymouth Rotary Club, best help in building this positive peace within the Plymouth community that fits in with your strategic plan?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Schaub. We really appreciate the offer of partnership and collaboration with the city for sure. And we'll certainly be thinking about how we can maximize that partnership as we continue to implement our strategic plan. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And it's actually a great segue to the next topic for our invited presentation by the Hope Board. Is that I know that Julie Arena was unable to make it. Chris, who's present with us tonight?
Rebecca Taylor is here with us tonight. We'll invite her to come up. And Rebecca, I've got the PowerPoint presentation up for you as well.
I'll be referring to it on my computer, so I'm not multitasking while I'm doing this presentation.
I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Thank you, Rebecca, for joining us. Really appreciate you being here tonight.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I really, our whole team is very grateful for the opportunity to come here and report out about some of the exciting opportunities that we have for our community. I know that we put on the agenda a Hope Board update, but right now there's sort of I guess you could say, a rebranding occurring that is actually a coordinated response office update to this community. So it includes Julia Arena, myself, and we also have some grant capacity as well as for a contractor, and that's pretty much the 3-person team at this point. You may have met Julie in person right before COVID hit, when she was doing some outreach to these communities when she first started here, when the Hope Advisory Board was forming. So we're just here to give you an update about this, what we're working on. So the specific thing, if we could do slide, please. And then also, we weren't able to have CSC come. They both have to commute from a really far area, and we heard from you that it sounds like we're all very much excited about this opportunity, and we want to make sure that we just move through the information quickly. So I'm here to represent the whole crew at this point. So next slide. Yeah, so today's goals, with the overarching intention of looking for ways to collaborate with your community, but also be informed by the needs and opportunities in your community as well as we work through some of this planning and policy implementation. Specifically, we're here to explain House Bill 4123, which is where this phrase Coordinated Homeless Response Office came from. And that this particular pilot, what opportunities that provides for our community as far as countywide. Also identifying opportunities for partnership and collaboration with your community as well. And then also just to learn together about what the different functions and the organization of this Coordinated Response Office looks like in implementation and moving forward. And then also a really formal and in-person invitation to participate, whatever that might look like in the days to come. Slide, please. So one of the reasons we really wanted to reach out is because we wanted to find in our community the why. So the Hope Advisory Board was formed in 2019, and the community had a consensus of what we envision for our community as far as housing goes. And so the mission statement, everyone in Benton County should have the opportunity to live in decent, safe, and affordable housing. And so this has really been the foundation of the work of the Hope Advisory Board, along with the staff, city, county staff, City of Corvallis and county, to find ways to implement this mission into our community. And so we identified as a community that there are certain specific things that we need to be able to make this a reality in our community. And one is stronger regional planning and coordination, additional funding for housing and services, a larger workforce, both from a development perspective and also social service perspective, and more affordable housing. I think that probably is something we hear quite frequently. And then public awareness and education. What does decent, safe, and affordable housing mean in each community? And so that opportunity for awareness and education, and then building that consensus in our community. So the coordinated office was looked at as an opportunity to provide the capacity to coordinate the efforts countywide and support cities and service providers, and with the ultimate goal to bring a reality to the HOPE bylaws and mission statement and sustain housing in every community in our county. Slide, please. So this timeline we've provided just to get us grounded and locate us where we're at with this work in our community. So there has been many different and iterative processes to get to where we are today, as far as community planning, community engagement, defining of strategic planning through a 10-year plan to address homelessness in Benton County, to the HOPE policy recommendations, and then the House Bill 4123 pilot that provides funding and capacity to operationalize those policy recommendations. And then where we're at today is to do that public outreach and engagement, intentional with our communities throughout Benton County, to look at opportunities where we can coordinate the implementation of these policies. And so this was just to get us grounded, because I mean, if we wanted to, you can locate where I started here, and it was a year and a half ago. So this is essentially helping us as a community see where we've come from and where we're headed. Next slide. So the House Bill 4123 comes with specific requirements that are to build accountability, so that the state is the funder in this case, but also to enable a lot of local autonomy as far as what that looks like in implementation. And so key requirements to give some structure to this pilot and implementation is a 5-year strategic plan with specific priorities informed by public and member governments. That's why we're here today, to see what that collaboration looks like around the formation of this 5-year strategic plan. Also, intergovernmental council. So this is a unique new component of our community's response to homelessness, in that this is a governance structure that enables close coordination between the leaderships of each city and the county on this topic and topics related to housing. And so this includes a top administrative official from each city, along with elected official, and we have a memorandum of understanding that memorializes that partnership between each community. And then the community engagement body, which is required by House Bill 4123, which the HOPE Advisory Board, having already been formed, serves that purpose of the community engagement body. That is, the state is, prioritizing engaging a wide variety of community members to understand this issue. So specifically, the Intergovernmental Council really is the point of formal engagement and collaboration with the city and county in this. And so that's one thing we want to make a point to address any questions about that specific structure. So this is a meeting between member cities and the coordinated office staff, the opportunity to coordinate operations. What are you doing in your community that we might be doing something similar, where we can leverage resources and technical assistance, and also understand that implementation in different communities may look different, but maybe the economies of scale of say grant writing or various supports like that, we can offer that resource to communities. So the attendees of this, like we said, the coordinating office staff would be there, one county commissioner, the top administrative official from each city, including the county administrator, and then that one elected official from each city. So what are the roles and functions of the office staff? Having since started this position, I understand that this is a very, very complex system and the different service providers that show up in this space. And so a lot of the work that we have conducted over the last year is to locate what exactly does this coordinated office look like as far as supporting the existing ecosystem around homeless response and housing services, social services, and behavioral health, where all these things intersect. And so the more we've learned from our community's needs previous to becoming a House Bill 4123 community and the intentional and focused engagement around House Bill 4123, we identified that a leadership structure and support for providers to enable system improvements was a key need in our community, along with a way to build sustainable resources and additional funding beyond the local level to make sure that we're finding resources to make sure they stay sustainable and enabling our service providers to do the work they do best, instead of so much of their time being trying to locate funding to just keep doors open and keep helping the people in our community. And then overarching is that understanding the different roles that each service provider plays and what kind of funding opportunities are out there, and making sure we're not duplicating efforts or we're competing for the same money. And so that's great stewardship of the public funding, and then also building data-driven decisions and understanding where we're making investments. In addition to that is a central point of communication, an opportunity where, you know, when people are reaching out, who is the leader in this topic, we have a central point of communication where the community or those in need can reach out to that, and they can be referred on to the appropriate agency or to the appropriate policy-making body. And then also a strong community engagement component with the Health Advisory Board and the work that staff are doing throughout the community. So it looks like I might not have the same slideshow you have, but
Oops, sorry.
no, I think we're good. So one of the key things we have here is how is the coordinated office meeting the needs of the community? And so we want to provide a few examples of projects that staff were implementing in our community or supporting service providers to implement before House Bill 4123 and moving forward. And so the next slide, I'll have to just see what we have here and see if I can do this ad lib. So yeah, so we have a new transitional shelter option. We have done a lot of outreach to our unincorporated area. This is a county code that is only applicable to unincorporated areas in Benton County. Staff from Benton County Community Development, along with the health department, in 2019, were responding to a community request to explore options for sheltering options in rural areas of Benton County to enable people who wanted a safe place to park. And so we had a few religious organizations come forward wanting that. And so we were collaborating with the city too, because they had a model policy around some of this. And so we were able to implement Chapter 40 of the Benton County Code that enables 3 vehicles to camp at a religious owned property. And 3 vehicles includes micro shelters. So that was an example of the staff and the structure of a coordinated office finding solutions in our community for this issue. Next slide.
Rebecca, what's the next slide you have on yours?
I have central point of communication, and then
Can we go through
I only
this?
have like 2 more. I think these were the ones.
I think some of these in the middle we pulled through. So these are in your packet.
That's the one.
This one here? Okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
So the others are in your packet. They're provided. We were just going to save a little bit of time and not go through all the details, but
Absolutely.
if you want to pick up here.
Thank you for that. Well, you tested me out. I feel like I can still talk about it even if it wasn't in my slide. So, okay.
You did good.
So these are just, we want to put this up here also so you're aware of these resources if you want to find out more about this work in our community, not just of the staff, county staff or city staff, but even the service providers throughout the community. Because one of the key things that our office does with the support of our communications staff and the health department is storytelling around the kind of the champions in our community that are leading this this response. And also there's a newsletter to stay updated. That's another thing, is having frequent and regular communication with our community. And then helping amplify the messaging that service providers have on their site. So many of us all have, different social media campaigns, and how can we coordinate those so that our community can find kind of a one-stop shop where they can find updates about this information. So next slide. And in addition to sort of the marketing media and just updates and news, essentially, the central point of communication also serves as a convening and facilitation resource. So one of the key examples that Julie actually spoke to me about, because this happened before I came into this work, is during I think it was about a year and a half ago, she was coordinating with Palomas Community Services to see what kinds of resources that the HOPE program could offer to the community. And so when she did some research, she was able to coordinate with the CARDVA, which is the Center Against Rape and Domestic Violence, along with David from our health navigation team at Benton County, to provide on-site representation for some of those services in Benton County. And last she heard that that's still something that's regularly occurring, that those resources are available in Philomath. And so that's an example of just saying, hey, what are you doing out here? Is there something that we can just quickly deploy into your community that's a portion of what we're already doing? And this is a community-wide resource that is offered here in Philomath, which that's another key element of House Bill 4123 and the resulting coordinated office, is that this is a county-wide approach to this planning and response effort. So in addition to that central point of communication, convening, and facilitation is regional planning. So I have been the representative for House Bill 4123 with the other communities. There's other counties that are also participating in this. And every month we meet with a representative from those counties to learn about how they're implementing in their community, learning from that. So we have neighboring communities, Polk County and Lincoln County, that are both House Bill 4123. So sharing information about like what they're doing with their strategic plan, what does it look like, and then making sure that we're making regional planning decisions, understanding this issue often doesn't see strict boundaries. And then also community outreach, what we're doing here tonight, and then also the opportunity for education through the HOPE Advisory Board. They're staying that really strong resource in our community about people who are experts, but also people who have lived experience who could really inform this response. And then an opportunity for input and feedback, really having that pulse on the needs of our communities in real time and being able to be nimble in our response to that. Next slide. So in the absence of Community Service Consortium coming here, we just did want to elevate the fact that they are partnering with us. They're in the memorandum of understanding, committing to helping implement this in our community, and understanding how the county and city of Corvallis, we show up in these spaces and we can be familiar with that from a city-county response, but it strengthens this this collaboration to have a human services component with Community Service Consortium on board, and how they provide such a suite of poverty and homeless prevention strategies and programs in our community. So having them engage is really helping us make sure, the decisions we're making, they have a very good relationship with the service providers in the community. And so they're a really great leader to have at the table, both from a planning and policy long-term implementation and on-the-ground resources for our community. And so really the next steps, I have it up here, but is essentially the opportunity to review the memorandum of understanding that we currently have with Community Service Consortium in the city of Corvallis and Benton County, and then determine if that is something that is, opting into, and then appointing an elected official to attend the Intergovernmental Council meeting. We've actually postponed convening that meeting in order to make sure that we make an intentional invitation to these cities so that we can have everyone present at that kind of the building from the ground level, because what the Intergovernmental Council can potentially do will be shaped by the participants. So, and that's essentially the presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Taylor. Really appreciate that. I see that Councilor Causey may have, and Commissioner Moore both have Sorry, Councilor McMorrin and Councilor Causey. Councilor Causey?
Just a couple of questions for you. The allowing vehicles to park at religious institutions overnight sounds like a great idea. Why just limit it to rural, to unincorporated areas?
Yeah, so that's a great opportunity to talk about what potential collaboration coordination looks like. So Benton County, because it was a Benton County project, only has authority over the Benton County Code, which is for the most part only applicable in unincorporated areas of Benton County. And so part of what we did, we were going to start engaging the community for chapter 40 or something like that, as far as 3-vehicle camping or something like that. COVID had hit right before we were able to do a really large outreach and engagement process. And so what we've done for the last year around House Bill 423 is kind of paired that with our chapter 40 code outreach to let people know that that's an opportunity in our community. And then also have a discussion with the incorporated cities to let them know this is something that may be occurring in Benton County that could be in proximity to the cities, but also if there is an opportunity for some similar language or policy within cities, is there something through like a coordinated office that we can support collaboration and learning from that? So the main reason is it only has authority there. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. One other question for you. Will you be impacted by the justice system improvement bond measure?
Impacted, can you clarify what you mean
I
by
mean,
that?
will that help your organization and efforts?
Right. So as you are aware, there is a certain amount of information about funding that may go towards a homeless response. What that looks like in actual implementation is yet to be seen, and our office hasn't been heavily engaged in what exactly that looks like. But we certainly want to collaborate with any effort within the county, cities that has potential overlap to make sure that we are using the resources. So there has been strong engagement with our office as far as what definitions mean around homelessness to make sure that language is accurate and actually can be applied in the event that those resources become available.
Thank you. Councilor McMorrin.
I don't know if you have the answer. This is on this page.
Yeah.
It said that Benton County has the most rent burdened city in Oregon. Which city is that? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
How that compares to other cities in Benton County?
I don't have a specific comparison, but I think that might be a helpful kind of a comparison. So you're asking about comparison within Benton County, but not state?
I mean, I'll take all the comparison I can get.
Okay, all right, okay. That is a really good, I thank you for that, because one of the things with our strategic planning process, we want to be intentional about defining what the experience of Benton County is. We understand that there are many different best practices that can be applied, across the state, but it's important to understand what is our story around this. So.
And I guess a follow-up question to that, I just know sometimes Corvallis numbers can get a little skewed by OSU. Where obviously students are more rent burdened than the general population. So I guess just an idea of taking that into account, not to discount it, but just then how does Corvallis compare to the rest of Benton County or the rest of the state? If you compare Corvallis to Eugene, Eugene's a lot bigger, but if you just take the neighborhoods around U of O, I would presume it's probably quite rent burdened as well. So I guess just some sort of baseline. How does Corvallis compare, acknowledging that students will probably always be a little more rent burdened than the general population?
Yeah, I think that it's rent burden, but then also what are the unique industries and different, things that are happening and location to I-5. So many different potential influential factors. Yeah, that is something that we're trying to grab our hands around. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. Appreciate being here tonight and for joining us.
Mayor Jones, if I could just get consensus, if the council's in favor, the next step would be for staff to bring back a draft of the memorandum of understanding to join into this effort to, officially join to sign that memorandum. That would include committing my time to attend and also one member of the city council attend those meetings and participate. So we don't need to make the decision to join or not, but does the council want me to bring that back to you next month or the next meeting to consider that? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Taylor. Appreciate you being here. So next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Councilor Andrade.
I have an amendment to make to the minutes. So I would like to remove it from the consent agenda, and may I give my motion right now?
Just go ahead and make the motion first.
I don't need to, I just say that I want to remove it.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry to pull it. Yeah, no, that's fine. And then go ahead and you're going to move to amend, right?
Yes, thank you.
It's the only thing on the consent agenda, so you can just make a motion to specific.
I move to amend line 44 through 45 on the 5th page of the March 13th, 2023 City Council meeting minutes.
It's page 25 in the packet.
So that it reads, objection to attendance of the mayor and press at the recent neighborhood meeting held by the city manager with Mill Pond Crossing residents without notification or invitation to the city council.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion made by Councilor Andrade, seconded by Councilor McMorro. So you want to go ahead and give your reason? Sorry. Would you like to further discussion or justify? I'm sorry, I'm not using my words tonight very clearly. Councilor Andrade, speak to the motion, please.
I just wanted to clarify that I didn't have an issue with it. I just had an issue with that context being missing, with the council not being notified or invited. That's all.
Got it. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Councilor Andrade. Can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda as amended? Councilor McMorro.
I move that we approve the minutes from March 13th, 2023 as amended.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilor McMorro, seconded by Councilor Andrade. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please raise your hand and say nay. Being none, carries unanimously. Okay. So next on the agenda is the capital improvement plan. Chris or Councilor Causey, you want to discuss this?
Let's see, the Public Works Committee reviewed this once again with our finance director, and I think the revised presentation is much clearer. I would like to ask Mike if you could just walk us through the carry forward on one of the pages. If you don't mind.
Mike, why don't you come up here a little closer to the microphone?
Oh, okay.
Just haven't had somebody sit by me all night. I'm getting a little lonely over here.
Mike's the mayor now.
What's that,
I said Mike's the mayor now. Yeah, Captain.
Oh.
Yeah, why is that over there?
Yeah.
I've never done that. You want to just have them go through water, Councilor Causey?
Yes, please.
Okay.
On the water, okay. As most of the council, has seen this probably for the first time, we've added 4 new columns this year. I like to do project accounting. I want to know what the balances are. So we created these columns. The first column is what the project started at this current year. And then we got with Kevin and we figured out what we're going to expend for this year. and took that away from the total project cost to come up with what we think will carry forward to next year. So basically, the fourth column over is the project balance as of June 30th, 2023. And then we carry that on over for next year, taking it away from the revenue. Any questions on that? And this is the same layout we have throughout the document.
Any further questions? Thank you very much, Mike. Really appreciate you being providing that clarity. Councilor Causey, was there anything else you wanted to discuss about the capital improvement plan?
I don't think so. I think it's fairly straightforward.
Okay, Councilor McMorrin.
I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding this right. I know we talked about it in committee, but on the park page for Cochrane Veterans Memorial Park, just the 50,000 from reserve puts us 50,000 over the total project cost.
$178 should be $128.
Okay.
So that's just simple correction.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Councilor McMorrin. That's a good eye for detail. Thank you.
I do what I can.
You're no Councilor Causey, but you'll do.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Giving her a run for her money. Do we have a motion to approve the capital improvement plan as presented? Councilor Causey? Do I have a second? Good. Motion made by Councilor Causey, seconded by Councilor Nielsen. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
You will see those in the budget on Friday.
Yep, you sure.
Excellent.
Oh,
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Next, we're going to talk about the use of the ARPA funds. Chris, do you want to kick us off?
I can. I won't read through the whole memo, but in talking with Mike on these ARPA funds, the state's wanting to know what these funds are going to go towards, so that they're assigned essentially to projects. And then we've got a limited time frame to get that done. They'd like that to get done this budget year, and then they want to see the money spent within the next couple of years. So, not a huge hurry up, but we did budget these funds for this fiscal year, 22-23. We just haven't taken the time to identify projects. We've had a new council come on board, new council members, some other things that we've had going on. So just wanted to get some very clear direction so that we can put into the 23-24 budget some specific projects that we can do. So of course, rather than think of new projects to come up with, I went to the current strategic plan, recently updated, and tried to identify projects that were already on the docket with action items or clear objectives to get done this year, and you'll see some of those on here. So came up with 4 projects, came right up to about the total, just shy of the total that we've got remaining for the ARPA funds. I did include the language. It didn't show up in the specific motion that was made when the decision was there, but there was a lot of discussion at the time about community-facing projects with these ARPA funds. That a lot of the money is going to go towards the sewer projects, over $1 million to the sewer project on 17th, 18th, now 16th as well, incorporated in that project. But we wanted to take some of these ARPA funds and show, have something to show for it in the community that wasn't just underground. And so that was the discussion. The memo itself, the motion itself, was to get some community engagement to what these projects should be. So again, however much additional engagement the council wants to have on this, we could determine tonight as well. But at this point, we're just looking for a little more direction on those specific projects. If the council like these 4, we can do that by motion. If there's other projects you want to consider that can get us to the same dollar amount, I think happy to entertain that as well. So just looking for direction on that. And I think I'll leave it there. Happy to answer any questions about any of these 4 specific projects or others the council might be interested in.
Thank you, Chris. And I see that Councilor McMorrin has his hand up.
I just had a question for the first project, the like digitizing of records. Is that like the ARPA funds are one time? Is this something that would then, like we're contracting with this service? Is that an ongoing cost that we would need to budget for in the future?
It's an ongoing cost that we're currently paying for through the police department. The police department pays for some of these services right now, and those would get rolled in after this kind of one-time fee.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
So like how heavy of a burden would it increase our costs moving forward?
I'm going to defer to the city recorder on the specific details because she's been meeting with the rep with Laserfish.
Okay.
So the ongoing cost that the police department already pays won't change.
Okay.
This is to establish a public portal on the city's website
Okay.
to improve access to past city council meeting minutes, packets, that it will be in a searchable format, much more user-friendly format for the public to be able to go in and find past discussions in minutes. And it will also improve our active land use application process for putting those materials on the website and providing the public access, which those towards our goal 1 efforts in the planning commission. But so the 6,750 is to get all of that set up and to provide the training, initial training to staff, my staff, that's me, and the deputy, and Chelsea. And then after we're set up, then it's just the same annual fee that the police department already pays.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilor Andrade.
To clarify, is the same fee that they're paying as in like it won't be an additional cost?
It won't be what?
An additional cost, it won't be double the cost?
No.
Because, okay, thank you.
They have up to 100 seats, user seats available on their Laserfish subscription, but they don't currently use the public portal. And so this creates that opportunity, also creates the opportunity for more public access on forms, electronic submission of forms. As we go down the road, there are a lot more options available to us to improve our transparency and our community interaction.
And then just to clarify, when it says here a one-time setup fee is not currently budgeted for, does that just mean is that the 6,750? Is that one-time setup fee?
Right. It's not in this year's budget.
Okay.
And, yeah.
But that 6,750 is all inclusive of what we would need to make this happen.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you're
Thank
not
you very much. Councilor Lehman.
Yeah, so after the training, you'll be able to populate that user interface with new information as it becomes available. We don't have to go back to them to get them to put it in the system.
That's correct. And they will provide training on how to create the forms.
some of that process will actually save some staff time, because rather than populate the forms or generate the forms, save the forms, and then have to upload the forms into the website, they'll be created in there in the Laserfish, and that's what's going to be linked to the website already. So it'll actually save, it's one step, but it's a step that staff does multiple times every week for every meeting, for every document. So there'll actually be some savings on staff time once it's implemented as well, as it's one repository for all of the documents. And the search functionality on the public facing side of this is the search function will dramatically be increased. I mean, the Google search engine that we use right now for the city website, although it's promoted as being pretty good, yeah, I mean, if you search gas tax in the city's website, you're going to get very, very little. Once this is up and going, then anytime gas tax was mentioned in the minutes of any meeting over the last however far back we go to get it set up, it's going to populate that very quickly, and you'll be able to get very specific information on those keyword searches that right now you don't get a very good result from. If you do a keyword search for the title of a web page or the title of something that's on the website, employment, job, something like that, it's going to do great. But for specific keywords within documents, this is going to dramatically improve that for residents, people coming to the website.
One of the things I did when I became city recorder in about 2002, roughly, was I started saving documents in PDF format on our city server. We'll be able to quite easily convert all of those and drop them into Laserfish.
Nice.
And create access. We have city minutes electronically back to 1994. We'd like to be able
Thank
to
you.
accessible to the public.
That's cool.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for staff? Councilor Andrade.
It's not a question because we're in discussion right now too, right?
Yeah.
I love it, that, that project. I would also, I know we've talked before about potentially doing something related to houselessness. I'm not sure how much I can talk about it, but I think it would be a good idea to set some money aside for that. I have no idea how much. If the city manager might be able to provide some insight.
How much money to set aside for houselessness?
Well, I don't know.
It's, yeah, we can. Again, part of the issue with the ARPA funds is we need to kind of be a little more proactive than what we've been this past year and have some projects identified that we've got some budget money for, and we know that's going to be there. We've taken some very proactive steps to acquire some property. I think we're going to continue to look at additional funds that we'll need, partnering with other nonprofit agencies and people that do that kind of work to help us. I think it's all there, and we're going to need, as much money as I think we can get to. So I'm not opposed at all of putting money aside for houselessness. I'm not sure if the ARPA funds are the correct source of money to put there. And I'd caution us putting money aside that we may not get to for 2 or 3 or 4 years out. I think we might get ourselves into a little bit of trouble. So it's like,
Councilor McMorrin.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
no, but
Yeah, I guess my issue with trying to spend some of it on houselessness is just that we don't actually have a plan for that yet. And I guess the way I look at it is like all of these things are from the strategic plan. They're all things we're going to pay for at some point or another. So I feel like it's either we spend this money on these things now and then spend general fund on a potential project to address houselessness in the future, or we spend these funds on houselessness now and then a general fund on these projects in the future. It all kind of feels like it doesn't matter. Like we're going to spend money from one pot or another on these or that at some point. So I guess because we don't have a specific plan to spend ARPA funds on and they expire, I would be confident in going ahead with projects that we do have a plan for, unless if someone has a great idea before the funds expire, but I don't.
Councilor Cosby.
I would second those comments, but I also wanted to point out that with the focus of the governor and the legislator on homelessness, that I think there will be other revenue resources that we can draw on without having to put the brakes on this. So with that in mind, I'd like to move this, the council approve the use of the remaining ARPA funds for the community facing projects.
Thank you, Councilor Causey, for making the motion. Do I have a second? Councilor Causey has the motion, and Councilor McMorrin had seconded that. Any further discussion? Councilor Andrade.
I would appreciate more discussion with the community on this. I know that I sat through quite couple of the ARPA webinars and stuff about what the intent for this money was, and they encouraged cities to be creative with doing something kind of out of the usual, if possible, to build community and meet the community's needs, and really kind of emphasized that community aspect to it. And I understand that we're running short on time and everything, but at the same time, I feel like we haven't heard from the public at all about the uses of these funds. And I know that that's not entirely true. We have talked about it at farmers markets. I know that former Councilor Bisco and myself have at least had some of those conversations with people, and a lot of people really wanted to see some of that money go towards a city plaza of some sort, town plaza. And I guess I feel like we should get some more input before agreeing to each of these projects, or all of the projects.
And Councilor Cosby, I just wanted to, did I hear a motion there? Councilor Andrade?
I
No?
guess I don't know what kind of motion I would have except to amend it to have a not a town hall, but I don't know, public hearing, I guess. Is that the appropriate, Council Pat, do you have any suggestions?
So my understanding that you want to have public input on how to spend these funds, but what I'm also hearing is that based on the fact that there is a timeline, that might not be the best idea, but it's something you could propose to council, and then I imagine it would need to be voted on because it would need to go onto an agenda.
But would it be like a public hearing, or would it be?
Again, it depends on how you would want to do that. You could have a roundtable discussion, or you could simply put that on the agenda, and if anyone wanted to speak to it during public comments, they could. If you, because it's not a public process for, purposes of doing an ordinance or anything like that, generally speaking, it wouldn't be a hearing, but if you put it on the agenda, it opens up community comments to be able to comment on that.
Okay, then, thank you. I would like to.
Just another food for thought. What we are looking for is some direction of what to put into the budget. That budget process is very open to the public, and so maybe we could make a little extra emphasis about ARPA projects identified in the budget, open that up to the public, and anybody that comes to testify about the budget or wants to come testify about these projects, we could essentially use the public process on the budget to address those issues and talk about these specific projects if they wanted to. So, I mean, that would fulfill that. It wouldn't require an additional hearing or additional meeting outside of what's already planned. But again, emphasis could be given on, how we're allocating, how we're spending the ARPA funds.
Thank you. To clarify, these need to be allocated by the end of this fiscal year or next?
Just part of this year's
year?
budget, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Lehman?
Yeah, I just distinctly remember when we had the initial discussion about these funds and assigning some of them for the sewer, that we specifically held out this $180,000 to get public input on how we would like to spend it. And it's been like over a year, and it hasn't been on the top of my mind for sure, but it certainly is convenient that we're approaching the end of the budgeting cycle, so we need to assign this money, and we haven't had any public input. That's a little bit frustrating. Second, during those initial discussions, there was some hesitation to use all of the ARPA funds for a sewer project because that was something that wasn't really related to the pandemic anyway, and so that's why we held out the $180,000 to do some public-facing types of things. And then what we have proposed here, aside from the first option, seems like just pulling more stuff out of the strategic plan and not actually getting any public input on what to do with kind of like the bonus dollars, in my opinion. So I'm gonna vote against this.
Thank you. Counselor Crocker.
Not in a formal way, but we have heard lots of input that the public wants more transparency, and two of these issues help with that, the kiosk and the enhanced current levels of operation so they can access the material. I also, there was a whole conversation about the lack of the holiday decorations down Main Street, and there were some people really irate about that, and I was taken aback. I didn't understand why that was a big deal, but for some of them, they felt like it was a big deal. So $12,000 for holiday decorations sounds like a lot to me, but the up in arms community that I was hearing from was saying we need to put something up, and they accepted the construction work as the reason for this year, but they want it next year. So anyway, just throwing out that I have heard, again, not formal input from the community, but I have certainly heard the transparency in the holiday decorations as an issue.
Thank you. Council Lehman.
Yeah, I'll agree, I'll concede that. So I'll agree with that 100%. I also just want to point out that I've been doing the budget committee for 6 years now, I think. And I can recall one person from the public coming to the public comment period of the budget meeting ever. So I don't know that that's a valid way to collect public input on how we're going to spend the money. I just don't think that's a valid way to do it. So basically, I guess it's the last thing, the lights, that I have the biggest issue with. The other items I don't really have an issue with.
Like the street lights, not the
street lights, yeah, on 13th Street.
Thank you. Councilor McMorrin.
I guess just a question for Councilor Lehman and Councilor Andrade of what would good public engagement look like on this? Like, what do you think we should do?
I think we should do a town hall, just like what we did with the Justice Center thing, and we did one with Campo, and just open it up and let people come by. It could be like the hour before our next city council meeting or something like that, and just, if people want to come by and talk about it, they can. If they don't, then that's fine. And if we decide as a council that we want to spend the money on streetlights, I'm perfectly happy with that. Just the idea that it's been well over a year that we've had an opportunity to have this, and I don't want us to feel like we're being pressured to assign this money to some specific task today when we've had a long time to garner public input, and now it's too late and we're going to skip by that process.
And I guess
Councilor McMorrin.
for Chris, how would this fit in with the budget development if we waited like 2 more weeks?
Yeah, I don't want to make it feel like there's a time crunch. We're gonna budget this money and it's
Right.
gonna go. And so, we need to report back to the state which projects we need to get done. But at the end of the day, the money's going to be budgeted. We're not the only city that's got money still sitting there from ARPA funds. So I'm not trying to scare the council into making a rash decision. I'm trying to look at projects already identified in the strategic plan that are public facing, that we've heard from the public that they want to have done, and using these funds to do that. So to me, there was no intent to cut the public out of this. The strategic plan has been out in front of the community for several months now. Haven't got any public feedback on it. We have held a couple of public hearings in the past couple of months. Attendance on those has been worse than the budget committee meetings, worse than city council meetings. So I don't know that if you hold a public hearing just for this topic alone, I don't know that that's going to be very successful either. We'll end up with a few members of the city council and a few members of staff here. And again, we won't have achieved our anything other than spend a little bit more time. So we'll go whatever the council wants to do. If you want to engage more over the next month or two, we can do that. The budget doesn't need to be approved until the end of June, so we definitely have time to do some public outreach. I would just question whether a meeting for this purpose alone would be the best use for that, or again, if we could utilize the budgeting process to do that, I'm open to that as well. But I'm open to what the council wants to do. I mean, I put in the memo itself, if the council wants to do more public engagement, we can. Trying to get to a starting spot on here, some projects already identified. At the same time, try not to add extra projects onto an already pretty busy and pretty aggressive strategic plan. And part of the fear is if we go to the community and say, what do you want to do? And they say, we want a splash pad. I don't have time to put a splash pad together, and it's not in the strategic plan, and it's not in our capital improvement plan, and it's not in the park master plan. And so then what do you do with that, right? So I am trying to kind of limit it a little bit to things that we're already planning to do that are still public facing and public out. But if we want to take more input, we can identify more projects within the strategic plan, and put that out there and do a survey. We could do that and leave a survey out there for a couple of weeks. There's other ways we can do it. I'm open to whatever the council wants to do.
And I'll just add that if we were going to do something for public comment, I recognize that no one came tonight to give public comment on this topic, but if we wanted to separate it out in a future council meeting, we could just add it to a council meeting and see if people want to come and give public testimony. But Councilor Kazi?
I think the input that we received on public event spaces was very effective because the people had, specific things that they could look at and decide among. Are there other specific projects that come to mind from the strategic plan that could be done instead of the street lighting?
I'd have to go back through and look. Again, I was also looking for projects that were budgeted for next year as opposed to going multiple years out. I could definitely go back through it and get back to the council on the street lighting. Speaking of the downtown plan that was done, that was one of the 3 or 4 locations that was identified for having street festivals and that type of thing. We don't have money budgeted for any improvements to those street lights currently there, which are the current model. When the streetscape project is in and the new lights come in, 13th Street's going to look kind of odd having the old style of lights, and it's not going to match the rest of that downtown area. So that was the reason that project made it into the strategic plan. It was approved by the city council to do that project next year, but we don't have any dollars assigned to do it. This seemed like an obvious place that we could pull some money from. So, I'm not creating new projects or anything that the public hasn't already seen before. These were just kind of high level projects that seemed like they fit well, but I could bring all of the projects back to the council and we can look at all of them together if you'd like.
Thank you, Chris. And Councilor Nielsen.
It's true, I haven't seen a lot of public participation in our council meetings or in public hearings, but as Councilor Andrade has mentioned about the farmers market, when Councilor Causey and I were there, people were more than willing to put a point of view as far as public things that they're interested in. How have our survey results been? Possibly, if we can get a survey where people wouldn't have to leave their homes to come and get their point of view, with some options of, we have ARPA funds said 160,000 to spend. This is what we're considering. Give them some other options and way to actually input ideas. Maybe give them other strategic plan or capital, whatever other projects that we have in the upcoming years. Give them some choices, and they could have input and yet not have to be in person. And because we're still, I don't know why it is we don't have a lot of attendance, but we haven't as the time that I've been in. But maybe with a survey we would have better luck. We don't have a farmer's market to go to and do that now. And to wait that long, I'm hesitant to say, let's wait till the farmer's market opens up and do that. But I'm also hesitant to think a budget meeting, I'm not thinking we're going to get many people at a budget meeting to talk about ARPA funds in the budget. But I do think it's important to have some input from the public. So maybe we can do that in a newsletter survey type of link that people can go to and look at their phone or home, give their point of view on how this, with everyone else, it's 160,000, how we want to spend. Do we want
Councilor
to?
Nielsen, do I hear a motion?
Oh,
There's
I
a,
move.
there's a motion on the table already.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I know. But if we want to amend our motion,
Oh.
or if we want to, we can vote on the motion as stated. Councilor McMorrin,
I move to amend the motion to approve the first 3 projects and to table the 4th project.
I'll second that.
okay, so we have a motion to amend. And are you proposing to table the motion or the 4th project indefinitely?
I mean, yeah, I think I'm tabling it until we solve these questions. So whatever that is.
I'll get to that in 1 second after in discussion. Okay, so we have a motion to amend and a second. Any further discussion? Councilor Causey.
May I ask the city recorder, I don't know if you recall off the top of your head how many responses we got on the survey about event spaces?
I do not remember off the top of my head, but we also ran that through at least 1, if not 2 monthly newsletters. So I think, it was open for a pretty substantial period of time, but I don't have the result. I don't recall. I didn't do the tallying. Leilani did. So.
Councilor Lehman.
Yeah, so I guess maybe I'm giving the wrong impression. I'm not opposed to us using the money to do the streetlights. It seems like, 15, 18 months ago, we had this discussion and we decided to use some of the money for the sewer project because we needed the money for the sewer project. And we specifically didn't spend all of it on the sewer project. And you can split hairs with me about what's the difference between a sewer project and a streetlight project. I don't think there is any difference. So if we were just going to go ahead and pick something out of the strategic plan to apply the rest of the money to, why didn't we just do that at the time instead of specifically setting aside some money so that we could specifically get public input on where the public would prefer to have that money spent?
Thank you. And I was just gonna weigh in on here. So, well, one, we're talking about the amendment now, right now. So this is specific to the amendment, or the motion to amend. But if we make a motion to amend indefinitely, that basically means that we're killing that project, is my understanding. If we give it a particular target date or some sort of time to come back to, then it'll come back. Is that right, Councilor Pratt?
I think we're just talking about whether we're going to allocate this ARPA money to that project. We're not saying whether we want to do the project or not.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just talking about the motion to amend the original motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, do we want to put some sort of a time frame on that is all I'm saying, instead of it indefinitely.
Oh, on the tabling is what you're talking about.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I guess just to respond to Councilor Lehman's thoughts, I think the reason I picked out the first 3 is, I guess, just at least for me, those are actually all 3 of those I have heard from the public that is something they would like. So I guess I know that's not a formal meeting or survey, but like I have no doubt that our constituents would like those things, as we've all talked about, especially the holiday lights. I feel like I got some earfuls about that, and our Public Art Committee is working on replacing those. That is already in process, so I'm very comfortable with that. And then we've heard a lot about trying to make city government more accessible and transparent and make public notices more visible, and I think these 2 achieve both of those. I think the reason why I picked out number 4 to table was I have not had anyone stop me on the street and be like, so let me tell you something, North 13th Street needs wooden lamps. That doesn't mean, I think they will say that if they get there and they see that Main Street has them and North 13th doesn't. So I do still think it's important, but that's the reason I picked it out, is just, in all honesty, I have heard about all 3 of these from constituents and I have not heard about this one. I think the one other thought, maybe we remember things differently, but I feel like the council held this 180,000 for public facing projects. The sewer is not public facing. It is underground. These are decorative streetlights that are above the ground and are in the downtown core and are supposed to make things inviting for pedestrians and everything. So I do see them very differently. And I think that's sort of the big thing there. But I would still be comfortable. I mean, I think it's also 160,000 is clearly the largest chunk of this. So if we want to spend a little time thinking if there's another $160,000 project we want to spend this on, I'm happy to do that. But I feel comfortable with the amount of public input we've got for the first three. And I would love to have the fourth one happen as well, unless if there's something else that that the council would prefer. I also don't think tabling it indefinitely means we're killing it, because we can always move to take it from the table later. We just don't have a plan for when we are going to revisit this yet. So that's why I said indefinitely.
Councilor Pratt, can you just, when I was reading about the rules, it's just indefinitely had a specific meaning, and I just thought I would check that.
I don't know if it has a specific meaning. Generally speaking, when something's been tabled, it can be brought back upon a motion and a second and an affirmative vote at any future council meeting, even if it hasn't been specifically noticed in that agenda for that meeting, because it's tabled. So by virtue of the fact that there's a record of it being tabled, it's always there ready for bringing it back. So at the very next meeting, we could bring it back on the table. It just requires a motion and a vote.
And what's required to do the survey? What is required from us in order for the city to do the survey?
I just need some parameters on what projects you want included in the survey. If you want to do all the 23, 24 and 24, 25 projects listed as action items, or you give me whatever parameters. If you want to go outside the strategic plan, again, I just need specific list of projects, and then I'll fight you on whether we have time to do it or not. So yeah, I just need some parameters and maybe an hour or two of my time to pull the survey together, and it won't take very much.
Councilor Andrade?
Along that line of thought, so there are things that are in the strategic plan that don't necessarily have projects, like specific projects attached to them yet, like a public square of some kind, or the sports park, how there's the feasibility study, but there could be other things attached to that, like, and how can we account for those things as well? Or can we get those in the survey still?
I just need direction from the council on what projects you want included in the survey. And I would argue that if it's in the strategic plan for some time between now and 5 years from now, it's identified project and there's an action item assigned to it, those are the high hanging fruit. And we can leave an other box, leave it open if somebody's got a great idea in there that's not there. And if we get a lot of feedback around a specific topic, then that's something the council could take into consideration. But I think we want to be a little bit careful of going too wide, because then you may end up with a majority where only a dozen people pick it, but now it's the majority because everybody else picked their own favorite project. So if you can narrow it down a little bit more, I think you'll see a majority a little bit quicker and easier. Spread it all out.
And I do want to just note that we are discussing an amendment to the original motion, and it would be great to get a vote on that if we can. But Councilor Causey?
I'd like to call the question, please.
Thank you. All in favor of amending the motion as stated, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, please raise your hand and say nay. Motion carries 5-2. Okay, so now we have a motion, amended motion on the table. And Ruth, I'm sorry, city reporter, could you please state what the motion is that's on the table?
The city council approved use of the remaining ARPA funds for the community-facing project from the strategic plan as identified. First three projects and table the fourth project.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of passing the motion as stated, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, please raise your hand and say nay. Motion carries 5-2. Okay, so now I think we should just give a little bit more clarity on what we're hoping that we can achieve or what we can do to discuss this with the public. And I think it's reasonable to have it come back to a city council meeting, maybe at the next council meeting that we have, is what I would suggest. Maybe I'll go ahead and make a motion that we offer public testimony on an agenda item in the next council meeting, whenever that is. Can I get a second or no?
What do you mean?
No. Council Lehman?
Yeah, I'd like to move that city staff put together a short survey that can be emailed out with at least 3 options for projects to spend the remaining ARPA funds on.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilor Lehman, a second by Councilor McMorrin. Any further discussion? No. Councilor Andrade.
I guess in that clarification question, in that survey, would there be a space for like comments and stuff, or what exactly did you have in mind?
I really just had in mind, we have $160,000 to spend. Here's 3 options that we think are pertinent. Please rate them. And I guess we can put a thing for comments if people have a different suggestion. I have a feeling we'll get some wild.
Zip lines. He wants zip lines.
That's right. Zip
Do
lines.
you want that back for the next meeting?
Yeah, that's probably need to add that in, don't I?
It was
And Chris, would that be enough direction?
Yeah, I guess do you want me to pick 3 projects? Do you want to tell me what 3
I can
projects?
assist with picking 3 projects.
Can I back up? I'm sorry. Councilor Lehman, you made the motion. Who seconded? Thank you.
And I guess.
Go ahead.
Just for staff, is that a lift that is doable in that time frame?
Put a survey together? Yeah. I can come up.
Check.
Yeah, I just need to know what project you want me to put in there.
Okay.
How long will it be open for? Yeah, that's a question for staff. How long will we be able to keep it open?
Till about a week prior to your next meeting in May.
Okay.
What is the timeline for the survey?
Have it open for probably a couple weeks. If you want it back a week before next council meeting.
Awesome.
Any further discussion, questions, comments?
Can I request that Councilor Lehman restate the motion?
Yeah. So the motion was that staff put together a survey that can be emailed out to the community. At least 3 options for spending the remaining ARPA funds on a public-facing project.
And open comment box.
And an open comment box.
And would the council see this, or would the council?
At our next meeting.
Okay.
So I can put the survey together and you want to look at it in May, and then it will go out after that meeting in May?
Yeah, I think we can just put the survey out and have it back in time for the meeting in May.
Okay, and you're going to give me the 3 projects?
I will, sure.
Okay, council's comfortable with that? I'm comfortable
So
with
the
it?
council does not have the opportunity to review it or approve it. That's what you're saying, right?
I don't think that it's necessary.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think if you have a project, you want to be on it, now's your chance to say it. Or like email Chris later tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before the end of the week, I would suggest.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
I
Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for that. I think that covers agenda item J1. Next on the agenda is to discuss Inclusivity Committee training recommendations. I'm really excited to hear about this. Councilor Andrade, can you walk us through it?
Yes, so this has been something that we've been wanting to talk about for a really long time, so it's great that we finally got to. And we talked about a couple options that that several people brought back from their own investigating, and the committee would like to recommend that council work with Oregon State University's institutional education for DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. They have 2-hour workshops that are at a flat rate of $3,000, so for however many people. But if we do multiple workshops with them, it's $2,500 per workshop. And the person who had brought back this information gave us 2 the basic workshops that would be fundamental, but she recommended that that we start off with at least. And yeah, it's pretty awesome what they offer, including what's on here, access to their learning management system. There's some videos and exercises. So a little bit of homework beforehand. Yeah, so the committee would like to recommend that council and staff members who interact with council and take this training, and that it be open to members of the council body, or excuse me, the city's advisory bodies for participation.
Thank you. And yeah, I have a quick question. You want to move money in this year's budget, correct?
Correct.
And would the training occur this year?
I don't know how.
This fiscal year?
I don't know about this fiscal year because that would only give us until June. I don't think we can plan that out, but I think we could probably, if I'm not mistaken, we can at least allocate it and then, but have it, or excuse me, aren't we allowed to pay for it and then like actually take the training soon afterwards? Or?
No, it'd have to be.
It has to be the same fiscal year.
The year that's taking place. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I suppose this is for next fiscal year, because I kind of doubt that we would be able to schedule that quickly.
And Chris, oh, I'm sorry. And Chris, if we wanted to do this for next fiscal year, we would just make a motion that we'd like to allocate funds from next year to do this, right?
The money is there, so we're not needing to vote to allocate the funds. The money is there. It's really just a motion to go with OSU training. And I just take direction, or Councilor Andrade take direction to coordinate, set up a date and a time and proceed. So I think we're not looking for funding. That's been approved already. We're just looking, is this the venue we want to use? Do we want to go through OSU's program?
Got it. Thank you. Councilor Lehman, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a question about the motion. It says staff whom interact with the council. I was just wondering why it was limited to staff that interact with the council, not just all staff.
Lauren, would you like to speak to that?
I would love to, since I think I was the one that said that. I guess I didn't necessarily intend that to exclude other staff if they would like to voluntarily participate. I guess we didn't necessarily talk about that. we talked about in the committee that the goal of this, at least this first round of training, is very much just some level setting and sort of getting us all on the same page as sort of what the terminology means and history and everything. Because I feel like the council's run into some issues with that in the past, where one counselor will say something, another counselor won't know what it means, or they'll interpret it differently. And so our goal is just to get us all on the same page, so then we can move forward. And initially the discussion was sort of just about council, and then I thought it was important, if our goal is to all be using the same vocabulary and terminology, that the staff that we delegate things to or direct should also be familiar with that terminology. So that's why I wanted to require that, you know, staff who interacts with us on a regular basis is also there. I guess I didn't mean it to not include staff that doesn't, but yeah.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be required to attend, I guess.
Yeah, and I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Kazi.
Just wanted to ask a couple of general questions. I wonder if one of you could tell me why you chose this group over other these services. How long have they been providing these services, and did you speak with any references to find out how they've gone, how valuable it was?
Yes, so I'm not sure how long they've been doing this for, but I do know that they come with great recommendations. The person who brought it forward had taken their training before, is a student in their training. Oh, I don't remember exactly. Anyway, plus I have heard from other students at OSU who have taken this and said that this would be perfect for us. We also spoke to some other places, but we either ran out of time because we wanted to make this recommendation as soon as possible, or they were more expensive, various reasons.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, we have a recommended motion. I know, yeah, we have a recommended motion. I'd welcome to. Councilor Cosley.
I move that the city council allocate $5,000 from the city council budget for the 2024 budget toward DEI training with Oregon State University institutional education for DEI for city council members and staff to interact with the council or would like to attend, with the option for members of the city advisory bodies to participate.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. I didn't catch who seconded that.
Teresa.
I did.
Okay, so Councilor Causey made a motion and seconded by Councilor Nielsen. Further discussion, Councilor McMorrin.
I apologize if you already said this, Councilor Andrade. Is it for 2 sessions?
The implication was for the 2 sessions
Okay.
because of the 2,500
Right,
per
workshops. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of passing the resolution as stated, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Councilor Andrade. It's great to see that come to fruition after a long time. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to staff reports. And
Point of order.
yep,
Was there some sort of direction that we should be, that Chris and I should have to schedule something or something like that?
Chris, I would think that we would just work with staff
Yeah,
and the inclusivity committee.
I know we can work out if you want to reach out to them and
Okay.
find some times, and finding the date's always tricky, so we'd probably be far enough out, but yeah, let's coordinate.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Chris, did you want to offer anything beyond what's in your management report?
I don't believe so. I think it's all there. Happy to answer any questions on it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Councilor Causey.
A question about the Benton County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. Where is that available? Is that on the website or is it?
The city website has a link to it. It's housed at the county's website. And yeah, this is a pretty substantial, I won't say overhaul, it's an update. It's a pretty healthy update. Mr. Black, Mr. Fear, Chelsea Starner have all been pretty involved. I've been involved on the peripheral a little bit. But yeah, it's a good update.
Second question on the last bullet item under administration is PLA, is that property line adjustment?
It is, sorry. That voice was slipped in there.
Thank you. Any further questions on the management report? Councilor Lehman.
Yeah, so on that same bullet item, it says that Mr. Miller has reestablished his active status. And does that mean he's started doing some of the mitigation stuff that was required before he could?
No, it means his contractor's license is now active and not, what was the status before? Inactive.
Technical industry term.
Inactive. I don't remember if it was inactive or suspended. I don't remember the name of it, but it's currently in active status. The reason that came up is he has a house that's completed at the corner of Timothy and 15th Street, and he'd called for inspections on it, and the inspectors wouldn't go and inspect it because it wasn't an active license, contractor's license there, so they couldn't even go in and inspect the home. So he's gotten it back into active status, so they're going through and doing that process now. It's also important because on the rest of that property, we want to make sure that somebody with a contractor's license is doing that work, right? So any of the phase 1, phase 2, phase 2B work that needs to be done, we want to have somebody with a general contractor's license doing it. So.
And then was there a resolution to the big pond issue? I haven't driven by there lately to see it.
There is, didn't make it into this cut. We did get an email last week from Mill Pond Crossing and their attorneys on kind of a timeline that they want to follow. Basically, they took all of the things they heard in that joint meeting that we had, and comments from the county, comments from the city's engineer, city public works, city manager, and they essentially put a work plan together, if you will. And they sent that in and requested feedback from everybody. We're still awaiting a little bit of feedback from a few of the parties to respond, and then the city attorney's office is going to draft a response to essentially say, looks good, here's a few caveats, here's a few things that we have some concerns about the language, but they have put together a work plan, I guess, for lack of a better word, that it does address everything that we've been dealing with. So I see forward momentum there, which is a good thing.
Councilor Andrade.
So, do we know why his contractor's license was inactive or whatever? Like,
I don't specifically. I didn't look into.
Or how long it's been.
It was only inactive for, I mean, from when we noticed it, maybe a month or two.
Okay.
It might have been longer, but from the time that we noticed it or it got brought to our attention, it was maybe a month or two to get resolved.
Okay. And then he's been like working through the punch list or not necessarily? I don't know if you can do that with a.
No, he's not been working through the punch list. I think he's been more putting the punch list to some type of a time frame. And so that's what he submitted to the city was, here's what we heard needs to get done. Here's our recommended time frame that we're going to follow in order to get all of that stuff done. What do you think? And so the city's response, again, we're going to package a response from the city attorney's office that has responses from Benton County, city planning, city engineer, city public works.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilor Causey.
I noticed that we're releasing a survey this week on potential climate-friendly areas. Would it make sense to include our questions about our functioning usage?
Pretty different. Potentially different. I think the CFA stuff's going to be pretty unique unto itself. So I think we better keep them separate.
Thank you. And I have a question about status of road construction on Main Street. What's going on there?
They were out there today. We, meaning city staff, meets with ODOT and the contractor weekly, and we've been getting weekly updates on their progress. It's fair to say they're maybe a little behind, but we've had a really, really wet spring so far. It's made it difficult. So no, I don't want to get in the habit of making excuses for a contractor, but they're maybe just a little bit behind, mostly weather related. Some other obstacles have come into way, but ODOT is running this project. I will just say Marcus at ODOT is out there every single day. He's checking on stuff. He is very aware of what's happening, what's not happening. I've got a lot of confidence in ODOT on this project. They're really doing a good job overseeing it. They've been very responsive to the city, even small things. One of their signs had a bunch of graffiti on the backside of it. Just don't look very nice as you were driving into town. Complained about that. They took care of it really quick. So, there's just little things like that I like seeing the progress on, but it feels like they're a little bit stuck down here on this west end, but there's just a lot of stormwater to get laid, and it's a lot of the underground stuff you don't see. And I don't know, it's like painting a room. It takes you forever to prep it, and then the actual painting itself is really quick. That's what everybody notices. But when you're actually prepping a room for painting, it just seems like it's just all the stuff that nobody ever sees. Putting holes, retexturing, taping stuff off, masking it just takes forever. And I think the streetscape project will feel that way, where it's just a lot of stuff's happening underground, moving things. It's just going to feel like forever. And then they're going to come in and pave it over a, few months, and it'll be like, oh, when do they start working on this? So that's maybe not an exact analogy, because the paving will take some time as well, doing it in segments. But right now it's a lot of underground work that you're just not seeing, but it's a lot of work being done.
Excellent. Council Lehman?
It was really awesome of Mr. Schaub to come by and offer some services from the Rotary Club. I'm wondering how we can address that offer.
So one of my first thoughts, although I don't want to burden the inclusivity committee, but that seemed to be a point that he made a few times. And so I was going to have a conversation with Councilor Andrade to see if she sees some help there. I don't know if it sounded like they were offering some funding, definitely some partnerships on some things. So, it may be too early to talk about helping. I hate asking for organizations for funding when we have funding already kind of identified and budgeted. But there may be some partnerships there. They did help with some planting of some trees at the rodeo grounds. They're going to be heavily involved in the Arbor Day celebration at the end of the month. So, I've always had a good relationship with Rotary. It's nice to see them. They've always been active. I won't say nice to see them getting more active. I think they've always been active, but it was really nice for them to come out and really take a step forward and being more involved in the city and city events. They've always been involved in the schools, like you said, and other things. They've been active with putting art by the library and other things. So we'll continue to look for ways to partner with them. I'm more than happy to reach out to them personally and see if there's specific projects they had in mind. But my first thought was to look at the inclusivity side and see what
When
they
we
could
get to
do.
more community engagement, maybe that's where they can play a role.
Right. Maybe help host an event or a training or some type of community outreach or something.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilor Cocker?
When he was talking and I was looking at his paper, it says water, sanitation, hygiene, and the good relations with neighbors. And I just thought maybe we could ask them to help to fund some hand washing stations and porta potties or something like that in our potential upcoming needs. And that it seems like that would be a concrete thing they could work towards and visible and fits their goals.
Thank you for that.
Councilman Warren.
I don't really know if this is, are we still discussing the admin report? Because I don't really know if this is germane to that, but I'll try.
Move on. Happy to move on. We can go to staff reports or council reports as well.
Okay, well, I feel like we should consider doing some sort of like dedicated town hall about like housing and homelessness, just because we seem to be taking quite a few actions as a council around that, and considering future actions. We just bought a piece of land. We're going to have to, consider more things in the future. It's in the news all the time. The state is doing a bunch of stuff with it. I think it's something that's on people's minds. And I hate to say, I frankly I feel like I have the firmest grasp of how our constituents feel about this. So I just want to kind of put that on there. I think that's something we should think about. And I mean, like genuinely like a dedicated town hall. Like, we're not doing any business. We just like, do it in the high school or something, and have people show up and give us their thoughts. And I think that also then achieves some of our other goals on the strategic plan about doing town halls and doing more community engagement and more opportunity for public comment. But also, just on a selfish level, I just genuinely want to hear more, because we're going to be making some very big and important decisions that will affect people's lives. And I don't personally feel like I have a firm enough grasp on what our city wants yet.
Thank you, Councilor Crocker.
I think it's a very divisive issue, and it will stir up a lot of strong feelings on both sides. And caution.
Yeah, and I mean, it'd be a great idea to have, I don't know about a time frame, but if you at any point you want to make a specific motion on it, I think that would be the way to make it happen for sure.
I guess I was just looking for like, is there any objection? And then if not, I can talk to Chris and we can come back in the future or something.
Yeah, I know that in our strategic plan that all of us said that we really wanted to highlight homeless or housing situation or discussions in this next fiscal year. So I think that's very reasonable.
Okay.
Moving on to council reports, I wanted to talk a little bit about the If I Were Mayor contest. And I had emailed the winners earlier tonight, and I had suggested that we would be talking about it tonight. And I don't know if it's past their bedtime or not, but I'm not sure that we did recognize it. But Chris, can you pull up the entry from Ms. Seiler? That won't work. That won't work.
No.
So let me pull it up myself. So first, I just wanted to talk to this a little bit. In January, for the first time that I'm aware of, that we went ahead and opened up this If I Were Mayor Council, or If I Were Mayor contest, and we got submissions from 2 grade levels, and that was the 5th, 6th, and the 4th, 5th grades. So that's one classification. We also got entries from the 6th, 7th, 8th. And so the goal was for me to choose one winner from each of those 2 categories. I just thought I would read both of those to you, but each of those winners are going to, one, get an offer to go to lunch with me. How exciting. Sorry for them. No, I'm just kidding. And then also they're going to get gift cards to their favorite local Philomath restaurant. And then they're also going to go to League of Cities and would be competing there, and potentially could go to the August League of Cities meeting. And then they'd also get a $500 scholarship. So then there's also 2nd and 3rd place runners up. So anyways, I was really excited to get these entries, and I just wanted to talk to you about them. This one was an entry from Olivia Seiler, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. It won't take that long, but it was kind of fun. If I were mayor, why be mayor? Why not try for governor or president? Being mayor means it's on you. You decide what we do with our town, how we help it, and make it better. You have a small town that you share with the council. I would rather be mayor of a small town than president of a country. But what would I do if I were mayor? If I were mayor, I would fix that annoying four-way street. Every week, my dad gets me hot cocoa from Human Bean, and we live next to the highway, so it's easy to get there, except for getting to school. All the schools are on opposite side of the street, so no one car turns for the elementary school. One goes straight for the high school, but there's also kids walking. It's all very chaotic. No one knows where to go or when to stop. There's cars coming from all sides. If I were mayor, I would put a stoplight and a crosswalk there so that we know when to drive, to walk. And I'll continue on, but I will note, Olivia, that this is definitely a topic that we're talking about at the council. Let's make dinner. Oh, wait, we don't have anywhere to buy zucchini, sausage, bell peppers, or paprika. There's a Safeway 5 minutes from Philomath's border. What if your kid wanted to make a special soup? They had a hard day at school and they wanted that warm sausage and paprika soup. Where are they supposed to go? Dollar General? Yeah, right. Drive 10 minutes to Safeway in Corvallis. Philomath needs a grocery store nearby, not just close in Corvallis.
I second
If I were mayor, I would put a grocery store in the middle of Philomath, accessible to all. Obviously, a Trader Joe's. And she should know that we really would all love to have a grocery store.
This is brand name loyalty. This.
I can't drive. Crazy, I know. I'm not tall enough. I hate walking 30 minutes to the mini mart for snacks because I don't have a car or a license. If I were mayor, I would put a mini mart in the middle of some neighborhoods. Teens could get snacks, adults could get coffee. It would be amazing. All of my problems would be solved with a mini mart by my house.
Wow.
After writing this, I want to be mayor. It's all of my favorite jobs in one. Plus, your own office. Yes, please. If I were mayor, I would want to make life easier for everyone. Our current mayor is pretty great. I'll highlight that. Our current mayor is pretty great. So I won't take the job yet, but pretty soon, please vote for me. That was Olivia Simon.
How old is this student?
She's in 7th grade.
Can you send this out to us?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
That's fine.
And then the next one is from Wilson Schroeder, who's in 5th grade. And I wanted to share that one with you. And this is a beautiful entry. And so the different age classes have different formats that they have to meet. And so the 7th grade was an essay, whereas the 4th and 5th graders are a poster. If I were mayor, free public water park for everyone in an awesome Philomath public park with a huge slide and turf so it doesn't get muddy. One of the slides empties into one of the schools and a covered basketball court. Bike paths along all the roads with free bikes and scooters with helmets to use around town. A zip line to get from place to place. Start a nonprofit that makes toys for kids who need them out of recycled materials. Have a logging museum to teach people about the history and future of logging in Oregon. You can try axe throwing in the axe throwing kids area. And kids can experience cutting down trees using virtual reality.
Oh.
We got photos of all these things here too. Philomath should have its own college so people can go to college close to home. It would be a community college that would be very affordable. And it specializes in chemistry, science, and math because I like those subjects. And those are important subjects for the future. It would make them feel comfortable and happy. I support the call for science. Low-cost nursing care home for older people. It would be next to the elementary school, so kids could read to the older people, and the older people may like the company. It's a great idea. Have a better shopping area so people can buy locally. Downtown has some great shops, but make it easier for people to open businesses. Right now, we have to buy clothes online or travel 30 minutes away to buy clothes, shoes, etc. Also, have more places to buy good and healthy food and snacks. And have machines to make snow. Here, a vote. And vote when to make snowmaking days. So there we go. Thank you so much, Wilson Schroeder, for that entry. Both Wilson and Olivia would both have my vote when they get to choose to run for office. So thank you both. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. I'm really proud of the submissions, and thank you for everyone who did submit. We were really happy to get all the submissions that we did, and thank you very much. Are there any other council reports? Seeing none, we will move to adjourn this meeting. So thank you all for being here tonight, and have a wonderful week.
I vote for a snow day. Every time there's a